Welcome back, everyone. I'm so thrilled to have you here today for this explainer. We're going to be unpacking the deep history behind a truly incredible global celebration. It's a story packed with anticipation, dramatic miracles, and a message that literally changed the world. We're looking at a kid-friendly, yet profoundly deep history of an event that billions of people commemorate every single year.
So, I want to start by asking you a question. What is the biggest birthday party in the entire world? Is it like a famous king's birthday? A massive national holiday? Okay, let's dive into this because the answer might actually completely surprise you. And to really understand it, we have to look back over 2,000 years into the pages of history.
Now, we're all super familiar with Christmas, right? We know it's the celebration of Jesus' birth. But while Christmas is Jesus' birthday, Pentecost is actually the exciting, massive birthday of the entire Christian church. And the story of how this epic birthday came to be, honestly, it's like a blockbuster movie, just full of incredible sights and sounds.
Part 1. The Promise and the Wait. Let's look at what it means to wait for the ultimate gift. So Jesus had told his followers, and there were about 120 of them gathered together, to stay right there in the city of Jerusalem and wait for a very special helper. You know, God's timing is always absolutely perfect, and this timeline illustrates exactly how long that wait was. After that very first Easter Sunday, the resurrection, Jesus spent 40 days with his disciples before ascending to heaven. The disciples then waited for 10 more days. Add that up, and it brings us to day 50. Now here's a cool fact. In Greek, the word Pentecost literally means 50th. And historically, this 50th day aligned perfectly with an ancient Jewish harvest festival called Shavuot, or the Feast of Weeks. Because of that festival, Jerusalem was absolutely packed to the brim with travelers from all over the known world.
Moving on to part 2, wind, fire, and languages. Let's see what happens when that promised spirit finally arrives. I want you to really put yourself in that upper room for a second. It's quiet. They're praying. And then, out of nowhere, there is this complete sensory explosion. They didn't just feel a little breeze. The Bible describes a sound like a mighty, rushing wind that violently filled the entire house. It was God's Spirit arriving, exactly as Jesus had promised. And man, it took absolutely everyone completely by surprise.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it breaks down this sequence of rapid-fire miracles. First, you have that booming sound of the rushing wind. Second, what looked like little flames of fire literally appeared and rested right above the heads of every single person in the room. And don't worry, these flames didn't burn anyone. They were just this spectacular, visible sign of God's presence and power. And third, the disciples instantly began speaking in new foreign languages that they had never even learned. Because Jerusalem was so incredibly crowded for the Harvest Festival, thousands of people heard all this commotion and literally came running. Imagine their shock when travelers from places like Rome, Egypt, and beyond heard these local fishermen speaking their native languages perfectly. It was so overwhelming and honestly so confusing that some skeptics in the massive crowd actually started laughing and asked, "Are they full of sweet wine?" They literally thought the disciples had just drank way too much and were acting completely crazy.
Part 3. 3,000 new believers. Let's take a look at how the church actually grows.
Remember, before this day, Peter was a fisherman who had been so afraid he even denied knowing Jesus. But now, filled with the Holy Spirit, he becomes incredibly brave. He stands right up in front of this massive, confused crowd and delivers a bold, courageous speech. He explains that the wind, the fire, and all these languages are actually the fulfillment of ancient prophecies from the prophet Joel. He tells them the plain truth about Jesus, and the sheer scale of the response, it is staggering. 3,000. After hearing Peter's words, 3,000 people believed the message and were baptized in a single day.
So, the crucial point is that when we say Pentecost is the birthday of the church, we are not talking about a brick-and-mortar building being constructed. No, the church that was born that day was a brand new global family of believers. The Holy Spirit equipped ordinary people with the power, the courage, and the language to share God's love everywhere they went. That 3,000, that was just the beginning. Part 4. Symbols of the Spirit. Let's decode this incredible birthday party. If you go to a church on Pentecost, you're going to see these 3 distinct symbols, kind of like party decorations. First up, wind. That represents how the Holy Spirit is unseen but undeniably powerful. It's much like how you can't actually see the wind itself, but you can for sure see the leaves moving in the trees. Next, fire.
That represents the tongues of flame from Acts chapter 2, symbolizing God's illuminating presence, power, and love. And finally, the dove. Now, a dove wasn't actually present in the upper room on Pentecost, but it's a universal symbol for the Holy Spirit because, at Jesus' own baptism, the Spirit descended from heaven looking like a dove, representing peace.
Part 5. How we celebrate today. Here is exactly how you can join in on the global party.
There are some incredibly fun and meaningful traditions your family can do to celebrate this. First, wear the color red to remind you of the flames of fire and the love of the Holy Spirit. Next, since it's literally a birthday, treat it like one. Have some birthday cake or ice cream with your family. You can also get outside and fly a kite or make a pinwheel to physically experience and celebrate the power of the wind. And finally, try learning a simple word like hello or thank you in a brand new language. And this brilliantly illustrates how the historical events of 2 millennia ago connect directly to our fun, everyday actions right now.
We have traveled from a quiet waiting room in Jerusalem to a rushing wind, tongues of fire, and the spectacular birth of a global family that now numbers in the billions. You know, you are a part of that ongoing story. So whether you're wearing red, flying a kite, or just taking a quiet moment to be thankful for the helper we have in the Holy Spirit, I want to leave you with this final, joyous thought to carry with you. Keep spreading the message, keep being brave, and happy birthday, church! As you blow out the candles this year, ask yourself, how are you using your own unique language and gifts to keep this global movement growing today?